Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And on today's episode, we will be giving our 2025 UFC predictions as we go through all 11 weight classes and predict who will end the year as champion, as well looking at who we think will have the biggest rise and the biggest fall off in the division. Also on today's episode, we'll be dropping our NFL Week 18 quick predictions. That's right, the season coming to an end, but we will have plenty of playoff predictions coming in the following weeks. Also, I will be giving my official review of Squid Game Season 2. I watched it. I'm obsessed. I for real just cannot stop thinking about it. I'm actually going to rewatch Season 1 in a bit. It's just so good. I'm going to be giving my official review and recap of Season 2 as well. New things in pop culture, new UFC fights being announced, all sorts of fun things on today's episode. It's crazy. We're already in 2025. It's a new year. I have a lot of big ideas for this coming year. This is the year, you lock in, you get things done, and we're going to try and take this podcast to new heights. But as for now, let's stick to it and look at some new UFC fights. First off, here's a big one for you. Top 10 action as Calvin Kattar, the number 10 featherweight in the world, defends his ranking spot against the unranked Youssef Zalal. Youssef Zalal, 6-3-1 in the UFC, is on a 5-fight win streak. On the run of a lifetime, he submitted Billy Quarantillo, Jack Shore, and Jono Aaron since his return to the UFC, and now he's being gifted a great opportunity against Calvin Kattar. And Calvin, he had just been grappled to death by Aljamain Sterling earlier this year in April. Before that, injured against Arnold Allen. This is a real bounce-back opportunity for him, and I'm going to label this as a must-win for Calvin Kattar if he wants to remain in the UFC. At one point, he had an amazing UFC record and now stands at 7-6. He's going to need the bounce-back win like this to get done. But I'll be honest, Youssef Zalal, also known as the Moroccan Devil, he's been on absolute fire. Another one for you. This one, middleweight division, UFC Vegas 102, February 15th. I actually think that's the same event as that Calvin Kattar fight taking place. Andre Petroski will be replacing Jacob Malkoun to take on Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira coming off a crazy knockout against Dustin Stolfus out of nowhere. This guy doesn't knock people out. He's coming out and getting a major knockout win there. He's also beaten Armin Petrosian, Cody Brundage. The main game plan for him is the grappling. For Andre Petroski, that's the main game plan for him. He picked up a big win over, I believe it was Josh Fremd, to just get back in the win category. This one should be interesting. It really strikes me as a Apex event. This one, UFC 313 in Las Vegas, March 8th, middleweight division. Bruno Ferreira, who is 12-2, all wins coming by finish, takes on Armin Petrosian, 9-4 professionally, 3-3 in the UFC, was most recently knocked out with a double back fist by Shaur Magomedov. Yes, that's Armin Petrosian. This is going to be a stand-up affair. You best bet we're riding with the Hulk, Bruno Ferreira. Here's another one for you. Middleweight division. This one going down in UFC Mexico in Mexico City, March 29th, as Calvin Gastelum moves back up to middleweight to take on Joe Pyfer. Oh my gosh, what a fantastic fight this is. Joe Pyfer just recently knocked out Marc-Andre Barriault cold at UFC 303 in the summer. Calvin Gastelum, I believe, got back into the win column. He beat someone. I can't even recall who he beat, or was it he lost his last fight? I have no idea what's up with Calvin Gastelum, but this guy used to be a title challenger, and now he's actually taking on young up-and-comers who hit harder than Francis Ngannou on the body bag. I'm excited for that one. Another one for you for UFC 313 in the middleweight division as Ozzy Diaz returning after most recently being knocked out by Zhang Mingyang. He takes on the debuting 10-1 Jorgen Santos, hailing from Brazil, knockout master, submission master. He looks like a scary, scary man. I'll be very curious to see that one. Another one on that UFC 313 card, which is filling up very fast. Welterweight division, the return of Alex Morono, UFC veteran, as he approaches 35 years of age this upcoming year. 14-7 professionally in the UFC. Actually holds wins over Donald Cerrone, Tim Means, Max Griffin. Pretty legit. He takes on Carlos Leal, and Carlos Leal had an unfair loss to, I think it was Renat Fakhretdinov last time out at UFC 308. He's looking to get back in the win column, and this is a guy who almost won the world championship in the PFL, another major MMA organization. I'm confident this should be a pretty good matchup. Here's one for you. UFC 312, 312 in Sydney, Australia, February 8th. Wang Kong back in action after getting upset. She was a minus 900 favorite and got submitted in round number 2. She's back against Bruna Brazil. I still think Wang Kong is as legit as they come. Hailing from China, she's an absolute killer. 6 for wins, 6 finishes. I'm confident she can get back in the win column. But Bruna Brazil, don't sleep on her. Don't sleep on her. She hails from the Fighting Nerds gym. You also know who trains at the Fighting Nerds gym. How about Kyle Barallo, Carlos Prates, and Gene Silva? That's a really good MMA gym. The hitters keep coming as we head to the men's flyweight division. This one for UFC 313 as the number 13th ranked Bruno Silva takes on the number 15th ranked Joshua Van. I am so high on Joshua Van. He's 23 years old, 12-2, 5-1 in the UFC. He's as legit as they come. And as for Bruno Silva, 4-3 in the UFC. Let's not forget he was on a 4-fight win streak, all of them finishes before he ran into Manel Kape. And Manel Kape decided to have a career. He decided to hit his peak against Bruno Silva. This is a toss-up for me, but I'm probably going to go with Joshua Van. He's just too good, and we're going to be bringing up his name later on. 313 gets another one as Renata Diaz welcomes Vitor Petrino to the men's heavyweight division. Renata Diaz most recently knocked out by, was it Derek Lewis? No, it was by Marcin Tybura in round number 2, his first professional defeat. As for Vitor Petrino, this was a guy who was 11-0, then gets submitted by Anthony Smith. And how about the knockout Dustin Jacoby landed on him on the final card of the year? Oh my gosh, that was insane. Vitor Petrino looking to get back on track as he moves up to heavyweight, but I don't think that's the move. If you're getting knocked out at light heavyweight, how do you think it's going to go against heavyweight, especially against a guy in Renata Diaz, who out of his 8 wins has 7 knockouts? Don't know how that one's going to go for our boy Vitor Petrino, who's actually in EA Sports UFC 5 for some reason. Who added him to the game? Flyweight gets another ranked matchup, this one for UFC Vegas 103, March 1st, as Charles Energy Johnson, ranked number 12, takes on the unranked Ramazan Temarinov. Ramazan Temarinov, 18-2. He's on a 14-fight winning streak. This guy's an absolute killer. Okay, decimated CJ Vergara in his debut. Charles Johnson, on the other hand, here's a guy 0-2 in 2023. He was literally fed to this undefeated 18-0 Azat Maksum just to get Azat another win before they cut Charles. Charles upsets him in a fight of the night. Then, next up, finishes Jake Hadley. Then beats Joshua Van. And then he finishes the year 4-0. One of, I think, 2 or 3 fighters who ended the year 4-0. He's incredible. I'm excited for this one. But Ramazan's a scary man. But if there's anyone who I think can upset a young prospect, it's got to be Charles Johnson all day. Here's one. This one's very surprising to me. Mansour Abdulmalik, 7-0, all wins by knockout, had a great debut against Dussel Turovic, takes on Antonio Tricoli, who is 0-2 in the UFC and has been finished by Tresean Gore and Sean Magomedov. Are we just keeping Antonio Tricoli in the UFC just to feed him to people for highlight reels? It's nasty business, UFC. Are you kidding me? Mansour is a absolute killer. Trains at Extreme Couture, same gym as Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis, those guys. It's going to be a bloodbath for Mansour Abdulmalik getting the win. And this will be the final one we talk about. UFC Vegas 104 going down March 15th. Dayar Nurgoza, who is 10-0 from Kazakhstan, debuts against Brenson Ribeiro, who's 1-2 in the UFC, holds 1 knockout win over Antonio Araujo. Also holds a win over Kyle Machado, interestingly enough. Brenson, it's been pretty mediocre for him. He's been knocked out by Roman Kopilov, knocked out by Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. This is probably going to be a last-ditch effort for him. And he's taking on this guy, Dayar Nurgoza, 10-0. He trains at Eagle FC. This is going to be a very interesting matchup indeed, but a lot of new UFC fights coming at you left, right, and center. We'll be looking at all of them throughout the year, and we're going to have a great year. I don't know if I should set a goal of predicting 400 fights correctly. I had my year best ever. This was the best year when we predicted 319 correctly, but it's hard to do. I'll be honest, every single week predicting fights. I think there were 42 events this year out of the 52 weeks of the year. That's a lot of predictions. You average at least, 10 to 11 fights per card. It freaking adds up. But I'll tell you what else adds up, and that's all the pop culture news we look at left, right, and center. Let's check it out here, your top 10 new things in pop culture. Number 1, kick us off at number 1. Which one should we go with? They're giving out a lot of Critics' Choice Awards, but I didn't watch any of the movies that they did. They always pick these random movies that I never freaking watch, so I don't really think there's anything I can use for that. Challengers wins Best Original Score at the Discussing Film Critics Awards. Good for Challengers. Never saw it. Had no interest in watching a love triangle where it's Zendaya just leading on two guys and the two guys end up being gay. Very, very weird. Number 2, Dune 2 wins Best Visual Effects at the Discussing Film Critics Awards. Dune 2 should win all the awards. I'm so high on that movie. I am so high. I think Dune 2 is a masterpiece. I really got to rewatch it. I just know how freaking good it is. I just want everyone else to appreciate how good Dune 2 is. Number 3, Denzel Washington will receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I don't know why we're giving an actor a Medal of Freedom, but then again, what have I done? I haven't done too much in life. I hope one day when I create something very cool and powerful to the world, I get a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Not damn Morgan Freeman. No, Morgan Freeman, what's his name? Denzel Washington. My bad. Number 4, Kieran Culkin reveals he pranked Mark Ruffalo during a stage production in 2000 by switching his prop joint for one with real weed. I was 17 and stupid, he says. I'm like, I thought this was a good prank. I'm stupid. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's got to be illegal, though. That has to be illegal, right? Switching out a prop joint for a real weed marijuana joint, that is very concerning. I am very concerned by that. I don't even know what to do with that. Runs in the family, though. The Culkins are a weird bunch. Don't be fooled by that little Home Alone kid. He's a weird one. Number 5, the top 10 most pirated TV shows of 2024 are as follows from 10 to 1. Halo, Dune Prophecy, Silo, Reacher, Fallout, The Penguin, Arcane, Shogun, The Boys, and number 1, House of the Dragon. Where are people pirating this stuff from? I suppose I don't even want to know, but I just don't know. Just buy the service or just look at it on TikTok. You could watch entire TV series, entire movie franchises on TikTok and Instagram videos. It's absolutely insane. As for these top 10 most pirated TV shows, Halo, never had an interest. Dune Prophecy, never had an interest. Silo, don't know what that is. Reacher, worth it. So fire. Fallout, very good. Can't wait for season 2. The Penguin, just not my cup of tea. Arcane, no interest in that. Shogun, really got to get around to watching that. The Boys, fantastic. And House of the Dragon was interesting. Well, I wasn't the highest on season 2 compared to season 1, but that's because I had high expectations. Number 6, gosh, what did we even cover? Andrew Garfield says he isn't attached to return for Spider-Man 4, but I know no one's going to believe anything I say from now on. I mean, Andrew, return. We love it. Get on for Spider-Man 4. Why not? You and Tom Holland swinging through the streets, fighting bad guys. Who cares? Just do it. It's fun. Number 7, the top 10 most anticipated movies of 2025, according to IMDb users from 10 to 1, are Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I don't think I've ever seen a Mission Impossible, though. Minecraft movie. I don't like Jack Black, so I will not be watching that. Jurassic World Rebirth. You best bet you I'll be seeing that. Snow White. That looks dumb. Captain America Brave New World. I'm not sold on that. I'm surprisingly not sold on that. Number 5, Thunderbolts, which I'm also a little perplexed on. Number 4, How to Train Your Dragon. Definitely going to be seeing that. Number 3, The Fantastic Four. I'm locked in for that. 28 years later, I might see. And number 1, Superman. Doesn't look too bad, but hey, everyone's hyped to see a little Superman, it appears. Number 8, Tom Holland says, although he goes to all of Zendaya's movie premieres, he typically doesn't walk the carpet with her. It's not my moment, it's her moment, and if we go together, it's about us. Well, Tom, aren't you a little feminist yourself? Good for you, Tom, good for you. I could care less. Number 9, Viola Davis's new action thriller G20 releases on April 10th on Prime Video. The film follows the U.S. president who becomes the target of an attack at the annual G20 World Leaders Summit. It also stars Clark Gregg and Anthony Starr. Okay, interesting. I feel like this is just the elite's way of showing us things. It's called predictive programming, and they think they can get through to me. They won't get through to me. I'm locked in. I can see through their lies. And speaking of, I don't even know. Number 10, Tom Holland says he recently stopped. Actually, I don't want to talk anymore about Tom Holland. What's something fun? Here we go. Number 10, GTA 6 is predicted to reach $3.2 billion in sales in the game's first year. It is projected to make $1 billion alone in pre-orders. Now, let's just assume it goes for the standard $69.99. And let's say if we divide $1 billion by that, how many copies do they think they're going to sell? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So $1 billion, how many zeros is that? That's a lot. Divided by 69.99. You're looking at about 14.2 million copies sold. I believe it. I believe that this game is going to be massive. But what I also think is people are kind of tired of waiting for this game. And the fact when it comes out it's going to cost so much money is probably going to annoy a few people. I don't know. We'll have to see. Those are new things in pop culture. Interesting stuff all around. But I'll tell you, the one thing we're going to talk about right now that clears any pop culture news we just talked about is Squid Game's Season 2. It's so good, guys. It is so good. I'm obsessed. Like I said, I'm going back. I'm rewatching Season 1. Season 2. All right, I'm going to just go outright and say it. It's 10 out of 10 for me. And I know I watched it with Lexi, and she was like, yeah, it was okay. It was okay. No, it was better than okay. It was fantastic. This is a spoiler review. So if you don't want any spoilers, just look at the little timestamp at the bottom and skip to our quick picks for the NFL. But, I mean, Squid Games, fantastic. It's only 7 episodes, and it ends with such a cliffhanger, such a insane cliffhanger. It ends, and you're like, that's it? That's it. There's no more. It ends with one of our main characters being killed. It ends with a betrayal. I mean, this entire season's so mysterious. It starts off beautifully. It's titled Bread and Lottery, the first episode. And it follows as we now see Song Ji-hun working with the man he owed debt to, as he's basically hired him to try and find the man who recruited people for the games. And we actually meet this recruiter, and we get not necessarily a backstory on him, but we get more in-depth character analysis of him, and his character is just so disturbed. He does this thing where he goes out to the poor people and he offers them bread or a lottery ticket, and they always take the lottery ticket. All right, I think only one person in the show took the bread, and I feel like people are going to go out in the real world and start doing that. It's very vile, such a vile thing to do. After that, we then head into episode 2, and season 2 takes a bit longer for us to get to the games compared to season 1. You say, season 1, you're already in the games in the first episode. It takes until season 3 to get to the games, and by the time the season's over, which is only 7 episodes, less than the 9 from season 1, what do we get through 3 games? I think it was, if I'm thinking correctly. I think, we only got through 3 games. I think we only got through 2 or something. I actually can't even remember. What is it? One more game? No, I think we only got through 2 games this season, 2 of the 6. So I'll have to see what happens in season 3, which does come out in the summer of 2025. But I'm tired of waiting around for that. I want to be here already. The acting for this show, absolutely incredible. None of the characters I know, they're all South Korean actors and stuff, or just Korean actors in general, so I can't really give too much of a shout out to them because no one would really know who they are. But we're introduced to a plethora of characters this season. We're actually introduced to a girl who turns out to be one of the pink masked workers, and she has some character conflict as well. We're introduced to a man whose daughter is sick, and he comes to the game for help, and he's actually connected to the pink lady who's one of the shooters. The front man has a much more prolific role this season. We see the detective looking for his brother, who we know is the front man, and he is betrayed in the process. It is just, there's so many subplot lines. I'm just hoping they can all wrap it up, because they said season 3 is going to be the final season. But I know for a fact that we will not be able to wrap up everything in season number 3, because this is a global operation. We haven't even seen the VIPs in season 2. I don't understand what they're building up to, but right now, all the big characters are at an all-time low. Like, it's like all the Squid Games people, all the elites, all the people in control, they have just worked out every single way to fool anyone from ever finding this out, and it just, all of our main characters are at an all-time low, and I'm very curious to see what will happen. I already know 6 months will fly by. Squid Game season 3 will be here before we know it, but it just kind of sucks. It's like Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai split up their final season into 3 parts, so it's like you get a cliffhanger for part 1, you get a cliffhanger for part 2, and, we now have to wait around for part 3. For Squid Games, I mean, it's legit. You cut the season in half. And, the director even said that, what's his name? Hwang Dong-hook. He basically said that it was going to be a large process to record this. And he wanted season 2 to be the final season, but he said by the time it was said and done, he had like 15 episodes, and he knows Netflix does not run more than 10 episodes a season. So we're going to have to wait around for Squid Games, but I'm going to be rewatching season 1, connecting it to season 2, looking back, reminiscing. It is fantastic. It is just utterly fantastic. So if you haven't seen Squid Game Season 2, go check it out. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Squid Game Season 2. And if you're just as if you're just as excited about it as me, let me know. I'm always happy to talk about it. I always want to know the theories behind everything, the lore for the Squid Games. But enough about Squid Games, enough about people killing themselves for the sake of money. Let's talk about the NFL, where they hit each other for money. Hopefully no one dies. But yes, we are into week 18 of the NFL season. We have a lot of implications heading into this final stretch. So let's drop our quick predictions for all 16 games. Week 18 kicks off with 2 games on Saturday, January 4th, both of which are in the AFC North. So you will know your complete AFC North standings before Sunday Night Football even commences. So AFC North kicking us off on Saturday. Browns visit the Ravens at 3:30. And look, this is a must-win game for the Ravens. This team's on fire, 3-game win streak. I actually need the Ravens defense and Zay Flowers to pop off. This is a must-win game for the Ravens. If they win this, they win the AFC North. They will get the 3rd seed in the playoffs. This is a must-win game for the Ravens. Home field advantage as well. And for the team they're playing, the Browns, they're coming in plus 1,200 underdogs. 5-game losing streak. I don't even know. I think they're starting Bailey Zappi at quarterback, okay? Browns did upset the Ravens a couple weeks back, but I do not see that happening this time. We're going with the Ravens over the Browns. Easy lock-in. I also have no Browns players to root for. I'm rooting for some Ravens. That's what we're going with. And 5-2 at home for the Ravens. For the Browns, 1-7 on the road. It's been an abysmal season for the Browns. Maybe they can miracle get the number 1 pick in the draft. Wouldn't that be something? Huh? Wouldn't that be something if they somehow wound up getting the number 1 pick in the NFL draft? Our night game for Saturday, Bengals visit the Steelers. This one, another crazy one. This one's another crazy one. If the Steelers win this and the Ravens lose, Steelers win the AFC North. So must-win game for the Steelers, but also a must-win game for the Bengals, who are 8-8. And the Bengals will need the Dolphins and the Broncos both to lose for them to make the playoffs, both of which are extremely possible. Now, in terms of starters, I'm playing George Pickens. I'm playing Chase Brown. I have T. Higgins. I don't know who to root for. But this Bengals team is on a 4-game win streak. They've completely turned their season around. The last time they played, Bengals looked pretty dang good. Steelers, 3-game losing streak. They've kind of taken their latter season dip like they always do. I'm going to go with the Bengals. They have gone 5-3 on the road, which is better than their home record of 3-5. Steelers, 5-2 at home, 5-4 on the road. Doesn't really matter where they play. They play the same. And I think the momentum from the last few weeks is going to carry over, and you're going to see the Bengals winning here. Now, will the Bengals make the playoffs? I can't really say that, because I think that I do believe the Broncos will lose, but we're going to talk in a second where I think the Dolphins are unfortunately going to win. Next up, we enter our noon slate with a lot of games. First off, Panthers visit the Falcons. Must-win game for the Falcons. Must-win game for the Falcons in this one. They're 8-8. Panthers are 4-12. Panthers have the worst defense in the league. If the Panthers give up 5 points, which they probably will, they will have given up over 500 points this season. The worst defense I think I've ever seen in professional football. Falcons, it's been a tumultuous season. They're just abysmal. Okay, you bring in Kirk Cousins, you pay him all this money, then you bench him for Michael Penix Jr., who you drafted number 9. They don't know what they're doing. I think they're in turmoil, but I don't think they're in enough turmoil where they're going to drop a Week 18 must-win game to the Panthers. I don't see that happening. I see them getting the win, see them getting it done, and I think Michael Penix has a good game, because if you're not going to do good against the Panthers defense, you will not succeed in the NFL. Plus, they're plus 300 underdogs. I mean, I'm not taking Panthers at all. Falcons all day. Keeping us rolling. Commanders visit the Cowboys. I could easily see this as the Cowboys getting an upset, but I mean, Commanders 4-game win streak. Jane Daniels has been on the roll of a lifetime. Cowboys just aren't there. They're 7-9. I don't know how they've gotten 7 wins. I'll be honest, I have no idea. They're 2-6 at home. It's been a rough season. Commanders over Cowboys. Unfortunately, because, I am playing Jane Daniels. But, there's just no way I can pick the Cowboys with the season they've had. Cooper Rush, I'm sorry. He's not going to be the answer to your problems. Here's a fun one. My parents are actually going to be at this game as the Bears visit the Packers. And as much as I hate the Packers, I just can't pick this Bears team. Wow. Wow, I just realized this. They're 4-12 on a 10-game losing streak. Oh my gosh. That's insane. That's insane. They're 0-7 on the road. Caleb Williams, I'm sorry. This is actually not your fault. Oddly enough, it's not. But Packers over the Bears all day. And look, the Packers, we might have to play them in the playoffs. We'll have to see. But what I do know for certain is that the Bears might get the number 1 pick. I don't know. Can they? They're getting a top 5 pick for sure. That I'm certain of. But if they could go out upsetting the Packers, that would be pretty positive. I don't think it'll happen, but I can want it to happen. Next up, Texans visit the Titans, and this is a toss-up for me. This Texans team has been so unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get with this Texans team. They're 9-7, 2-game losing streak, and I think it's just a matter of they've just played all their games super close. They're blissfully in the AFC South, which might be the worst division in football. But the Titans, 3-13. They're 1-6 at home, 5-game losing streak. We're going to go with the Texans in this one. But as for future, when we get to the playoffs, I do not see the Texans going that far at all. Once they actually start playing some high-level teams, I don't think they're going to get any more wins, but we're going to give them a win to round out the season. Another one for you in the AFC South, Jaguars visit the Colts. This is 50-50. This is 50-50 for me, and the only reason I'm going to predict the Jaguars beat the Colts is due to the fact that I have Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby, and I want them to succeed. Now, in another league, I have Joe Flacco and Josh Downs, so it's really a toss-up, so I'm just hoping out of those 4 players, some of them do good, all of them do good. I'm hoping for a high-scoring 40-43 affair, a lot of offense, minimal defense. We'll pick the Jaguars, but it's really just boiling down to the fact that I have Brian Thomas Jr., and I want him to win very much so. Now, this is interesting. AFC East, Bills and Patriots. You may just think immediately Bills all day. But the Bills are resting their starters. Okay, the Bills are resting their starters. They're locked in as the 2 seed in the AFC, and they're resting everyone. For the Patriots, they're playing their starters. They want to go out with a bang. They're on a 6-game losing streak. They've gone 1-6 at home. It's been a rocky season. They do have the number 1 pick right now, though. So if they were to lose today, they get the number 1 pick. But this is just a tale as old as time, where a team who it's so evident the Bills should win. Patriots, if they win, they'll get the number 1 pick. You see the Patriots winning, losing the number 1 pick, winning a game for no reason. Patriots fans going, oh, that's the Patriots for you. That's what I think will happen. I'm predicting the Patriots upset the Bills. Plus, the Patriots always play the Bills close. Ever since Brady left, the rivalry has kind of flip-flopped where now it's the Bills dominating the Patriots. But the Patriots are always that team in the Bills season that gives them a run for their money. So we're going with the Patriots. Plus, they're only plus 160. That's a close odd. Bills are minus 190. I like those odds. We're going Patriots over the Bills. Similar scenario as we head to the NFC East, as the Eagles, who are locked in as the number 2 seed, will be taking on the 3-13 New York Giants. And for this one, I just don't see the Giants winning. I think even if you have the backup Eagles team in the entire game, they're still going to dominate this Giants team. Look, the Giants beat the Colts in a barn burner. That's the Colts. This is the Eagles we're talking about. Eagles coming off a win. They're 13-3. It's an utter shame Nick Sirianni is sitting Saquon Barkley. That is utter BS. But I do kind of understand it as Jalen Hurts is also injured. You're going to want to keep Devontae and A.J. Brown healthy, so I can kind of sympathize with that. But for the Giants, you got Drew Lock, you got Malik Neighbors. I think Drew Lock is going to be a solid backup for the future with whoever they draft. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be a stud, but you definitely need a running back. Tracy Jr. is good, but I don't think he's sustainable. Singletary was a failed experiment. Other than that, the wide receiver core is pretty decent. Vandal Robinson's pretty good, but this team is going to need to do some serious rebuilding in the offseason. We're going to go with the Giants. Noon games wrap up with the Saints visiting the Buccaneers, and for a must-win game for the Bucs, where if you just need to win and you're in, Okay, because they correctly matched up the Buccaneers playing at the Falcons at the exact same time at the 12 o'clock slot. So you're not going to know if you're in the playoffs or not. But if the Falcons win, Bucs are also going to need a win, and I think they're going to get it over the Saints team. Saints are 5-11. I don't know who's starting for them. All their starters are questionable. Okay, and their backups are just awful. Just awful. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They have a stellar defense, but the offense is just not all that. Not all that at all. And, at 5-11, I think you just sacrifice the loss here, get good draft stock, and accept your losses. Bucs are coming in as minus 1,000 favorites, and I'm going to need Baker Mayfield to do some dirty things. So you already know he's going to go off, and he's going to deliver a Baker Bucs performance. Buccaneers over Saints, it's not even close. The 3:30 slate gets us going, and we kick off with some AFC West matchups. Chiefs and the Broncos. Now, I'm torn because the Chiefs, they're not playing their starters a lot. They're going to have their backups in, but the Broncos need to win. So the Broncos are going to be playing very, very hard. And the Broncos, 2-game losing streak. They had the playoffs in the bag. They've absolutely lost it. They just need to win, and they make the playoffs. So if they lose, they're probably going to be out. Okay, they're probably going to be out. But if they can win, they can get it done. The Chiefs are coming in as plus 425 underdogs with their backups, but something just tells me Carson Wentz and the boys are going to get it done against this Broncos team. And Chiefs have been good all year. They play all their games close. I think they rounded out with a shocking win here with their backups, and they send the Broncos packing for the season. So we're going Chiefs over Broncos, even though they don't got any starters coming into play. You can't think that all the starters in every single game are going to lose it out, right? We'll have to see. As for our other one, Chargers at Raiders. Chargers are probably going to have their backups in, but they might keep them in. I don't know. But all I know is this Raiders team is just allergic to winning. They've won their last 2 games, but I do want to point out that those games have been against the Saints and the Jaguars, so it's nothing to flaunt about. This Chargers team, I think they are actually gunning for a win, because it'll determine their spot with the Steelers, Ravens, even the Broncos, whoever they play. So this would be a good one for the Chargers if they could finish as the 6th seed opposed to the 7th. So we'll have to see, but I am going Chargers over Raiders. I do hope Brock Bowers has a legacy game and that Ladd McConkey takes the day off. So Chargers over Raiders, but we're a Brock Bowers fan, similar to the Jaguars situation. 325 also has the Seahawks taking on the Rams, and the Seahawks are eliminated. They're done for, but I think they're vengeful. Okay, I think they're vengeful against this Rams team. And this Rams team, it was a boring game against the Cardinals last week. Nothing was exciting. Cooper Kupp is dipping off. Puka Nacua is standing out. Kyren Williams is decent at best. And I think the Seahawks team is hungry for a win to end the year, and how big of an FU would it be if they ended with the same record as the Rams, yet they were guaranteed to miss the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the Rams. I also have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I believe I'm playing Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp, one of the two. Maybe even I'm playing Kyren Williams. I don't freaking know, but we will be rooting for the Seahawks to win this, and I think they can win it. It's these divisional games where nothing's on the line for one team. The other team really could probably use a win. Those are the games that are good. 325 almost wraps up. Dolphins, Jets. If the Dolphins win and the Broncos lose, Dolphins are in the playoffs, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think the Dolphins are going to beat this Jets team. I can't pick the Jets to win a game. I've picked them multiple times this season. They're 4-12. They're a bad team. They're a bad team overall. They are really just a rough team. I don't see much success in their future. They need a whole lot of rebuilding. They need a new quarterback. That's for freaking sure. Aaron Rodgers was not the answer. And, Tyrod Taylor, I think, has more touchdowns in the last few weeks than Rodgers does. It's utterly insane. So, Dolphins over Jets. Even if you got Huntley in, I think he can get it done. They're 8-8, 2-game win streak. And they're not too bad. They're not too bad. But the Jets, they are very bad. We wrap up second to last game of the regular season as the 49ers take on the Cardinals. And I don't know. I think this 49ers team just, they were dealt injuries with McCaffrey and Ayuk, so those hurt. But, as we look at some of these losses, the Lions one was close. Dolphins one was bad. Rams one was close. The Bills one blown out, but that was a winter game. Packers game getting blown out. That was another case of the weather. As I look around at some others, 49ers, they just couldn't recapture the magic of last 2 seasons, especially the last season. But I think they said the Cardinals packing this Cardinals team 7-9 isn't much better, so I think the 49ers beat the Cardinals and the year on a win, and that's how they round out the season. Getting a win, they'll both finish 7-10, and they'll look forward to next year. But now let's get into the game that everyone's talking about, Sunday Night Football, Lions and Vikings, for not only the NFC North, but the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. This is going to be crazy as the Lions take on the Vikings, and it just couldn't get any better. We're in Detroit. All's on the line. The Lions beat the Vikings by 2 points on a game-winning field goal a couple weeks earlier, actually earlier on in the season. And now it's all decided right here. Who will be the number 1 seed? Who will be the 5 seed? We will find out on Sunday Night Football. Vikings 14-2, plus 120-point differential, 9-game winning streak. How is this my team? How is the Vikings my team? I mean, this was a rebuild year for the Vikings. This was a rebuild year, and we're about to finish as the number 1 seed. Oh my gosh, I'm so optimistic. But I wouldn't be too mad if we got the 5, We're either going to be taking on, presumably, I'm going to guess, if I could make the playoffs, if we finish as the 5, we're going to take on the Bucs, because it'll either be Buccaneers or Falcons, but I'm going to go with the Bucs. Then I think, if I'm doing this correctly, I should have mapped this out earlier, but you would have the Eagles and the Commanders or Packers at the 7, which I'm going to predict is going to be the Actually, I don't know how it all works. The playoffs are going to be super screwy, but Vikings are either going to be taking on the Buccaneers in the wild card, then probably winner of Rams, and actually, there's just so many scenarios you can't say. But ultimately, I do want this team to win. But this Lions team, they have a plus 200-point differential. They've put up 533 points this season. They're undefeated on the road, but they have lost both of their regular season games at home, giving the Vikings hope. Both these teams are perfectly healthy. I mean, Vikings more healthy than the Lions at the moment. But this should be an absolute barn burner. You already know I'm predicting the Vikings. Major Vikings fan here. So Vikings all day, but this is going to be insane. Sunday Night Football to determine who wins. It's cinema. It is legit cinema. I use that term. It's fantastic, and I cannot wait to find out what happens. So those are your NFL Week 18 quick picks. We'll be doing a fantasy football yearly recap at the end of the season, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, exciting stuff ahead. I'm rooting for the Vikings. That's the only game I truly care about. But we're going to find out the entire playoff format by the end of 325 games. But let's wrap this episode up. We got one last segment. I'm pumped about it. My 2025 UFC predictions for every division. Let's not fray. Let's get right on into it. Or maybe let's not wait. Let's get right into the fray. I don't know how the term goes, but let's talk about it. So the main thing for the 2025 predictions is who will end the year as champion. And last year, we went 6 of 11, which is pretty good. We missed on some, nailed some others. So for this year, we're back again. Out to do it. We'll go from women's strawweight all the way to heavyweight, and I'll even chime in who I think will have a big rise in the division and who I think will probably have a bit of a fall off. So kicking us off, women's strawweight division. All right, we have Zhang Weili as champion. She's been champion since 2022, but in the last 2 years, she's only had 2 title defenses, so the defenses don't come too often for her, and the good news is that she's kicking off the year with an early one, as she takes on the number 1 contender, Tatiana Suarez, in February at UFC 312. Now, as far as the toughest challenger in the division, it's easily Tatiana Suarez, but in terms of Tatiana, look, she has outstanding grappling. That's where she will beat Zhang Weili. But in the striking, I do see a bit of a differential. And mind you, Yan Chaonan exposed that Zhang Weili can get caught. But I do have Zhang Weili ending the year as champion. I was really considering Tatiana Suarez, but it would be an upset if Tatiana won. So we are going to go with Zhang Weili. If she gets another title fight in, it would either probably be a double title opportunity against Valentina Shevchenko, or maybe Virna Jandiroba, but I don't really see that, so we're going to go with Zhang Weili. Now, in terms of who I think will have the biggest rise and the biggest fall, I don't know any, unfortunately for the women, I don't know many unranked women, so I'm just going off of the rankings, and that's true for primarily a lot of our predictions when it comes to all the weight classes. So in terms of the biggest rise, number 12 ranked Jillian Robertson, who is 39 years old, is going into the prime of her career. It's absolutely crazy. She's having a Glover Teixeira type of run, and I think she's primed for a big fight coming up. And she's been on a roll. I can't even recall what the win streak's now at. I think it's at 4 fights, maybe 3 fights, but most recently dispatched of Luiana Pinheiro. She's ranked number 12. I could see her rising up into the top 10, potentially the top 5 throughout the year. Now, for my biggest fall off, this is just personal. Number 3, Virna Jandiroba, who I did mention as potentially getting a title shot. I don't know how she's made up to number 3. Now, it's through the grappling. She does have the best of striking. I don't know how she's risen up through the weight class, but she's at number 3. I project by the end of the year, she will have dropped off very, very far down the rankings. If not, she will have just not fought. But in terms of champion, Zhang Weili retains. That's what we're going with. Next up, men's flyweight, and this one pretty similar to Zhang Weili, although Alexander Pantoja is much more concurrent with his title defenses, much more active for better terms, and there's just really no one. After what he did to Kaya Sakura, no striker without grappling is going to beat him. Manel Kape, I'm picking Manel Kape over Pantoja in striking. Grappling will take him down. Tatsuya Taira has the grappling. I think Pantoja has the striking. Kakar France, striking, doesn't have the grappling. Pantoja could have 1 title defense, 2 title defenses. I think he ends the year as champion. I think even if someone upsets him early on in the year, he gets a rematch and beats him later on. So I'm going with Alexander Pantoja. I don't think his run ends just yet. I think he remains champion. Now, for biggest rise, we mentioned him. Number 15th ranked Joshua Van. I'm so high on him. He's only a year older than me. He's ranked number 15, got to fight with the number 13 guy. I think by the end of the year, you're seeing him in the top 7. All right, that's what I'm really going with. Now, some other names to keep on your radar. Asu Almabayev at number 8. This guy is an absolute killer. Pretty unknown if you ask me. He's on a 17-fight win streak. He's 21-2. He's an absolute killer. Got a fight lined up with the number 7th ranked Alex Perez. He could be an option. I think Tatsuya Taira and Manel Kape are in for a good year. In terms of fall off, I'm going to say the number 3 ranked Amir Albazi. I think his case is one of those scenarios where he ended up in the top 3 and he lost to Brandon Moreno. I think he's going to get other fights like against Tatsuya Taira, lose that. I think he's going to fall into that Rob Font, that who's someone good. Just one of those guys that keeps taking on people, losing close fights, and then you look and he's like, oh my gosh, this guy is 1-5 in his last 6 fights. So I think it's going to be Amir Albazi. I'm going to try and pick high-level people for who I think will have a fall-off. That's what we're going with. Women's flyweight up next. It's Valentina Shevchenko. After watching what she did to Alexa Grasso, I hate to say it, the rematch, this whole trilogy, it's all been a fluke. Valentina is clearly better, clearly knows what she's doing. Amanda Fiorat, she's good. I think Valentina beat her. Macy Barber, she's good. Erin Blanchard, she's good. I think Valentina's better. Natalia Silva at number 5. She's my pick for the biggest rise in the division. I think she poses a great threat to Valentina Shevchenko. But people are talking about this lady named Dakota Dachevich, who's killing it in the PFL. If she were to come over, she would be an absolute stud. But like I said, she's most recently joined the PFL this past season. I doubt they're going to let her go. I'm taking Valentina Shevchenko to remain champion again. Natalia Silva, like I said, biggest rise and biggest fall off. Number 6, Rose Namajunas. I think Rose is past her prime. After watching what happened this year, she had some good performances against Amanda Hebus and Tracy Cortez. Nothing special. I'm talking 48-47, 5-round decision wins. And then as for the Erin Blanchfield fight, Erin clearly had her number in that. So I think Rose takes a dip, and when we look at the end of the year, she has dropped in numerous amount of spots in the women's flyweight division. Moving on to the men's bantamweight division. This one's very interesting. A lot of these divisions get interesting from here. Merab is your current champion. Most recently won it from Sugar Sean O'Malley, but he's taken out Umar Nurmagomedov. And Umar, 18-0, he's got, I think it's at, I don't even know how many finishes. He's got, I think half of them by finish, 9 or 10 finishes. He's an absolute killer. Watching what he did to Corey Sandhagen is just something I haven't seen done to Corey in a while, getting out-grappled like that. Merab, he is on the, striking is going to be a big tell. I think their striking is pretty similar. I think their grappling, you're either going to see if Georgian wrestling, the kind even like Aljamain Sterling uses, more of a New York-based where they train at Ray Longo. I think we're either going to see if that works or the Dagestani wrestling, and I think Umar's got that Dagestani wrestling, and he retains. Now, Will they rematch right away? I can't say, but I know if Sean O'Malley wins one fight, they're going to try and get him a title shot. Sean O'Malley, Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen, those are all the top gunners at men's bantamweight, and I think Umar just grapples them all. I think Umar Nurmagomedov ends the year as champion, and you get this fantastic photo of Umar with his belt, Islam with his belt, and Khabib with his belt, and it's just going to look absolutely fantastic. Now for biggest rise, there's an unranked kid. His name's Peyton Talbot. You may not have heard of him, but he's going to be a big name. Trust me. Peyton Talbot, he's on the rise, undefeated, all finishes. He's either 7-0 or 8-0. I believe it's 7. And he's coming off just another fantastic performance. Knocked out Jan Skamori in 17, 19 seconds. It was incredible. Keep your ears out. Keep your ears peeled. Listen for the name Peyton Talbot. I bet he's in the rankings or on your radar by the end of the year. But bantamweight's a deep division. You got a lot of killers. When I look at the bottom, number 15th ranked Montel Jackson, number 14th ranked Marcus Mejia, number 13th ranked Ahmed Zabi. I think they're all talented. They just don't strike me as someone breaking out this year, having a fantastic year where everyone's talking about them. For biggest fall off, number 6th ranked Marlon Vera. Number 7th ranked Henry Cejudo. I've got my eyes peeled on those two, especially Marlon Vera. I think Marlon's going to enter that part of his career where he keeps losing decisions. We already saw his chin falter against Davison Figueiredo, but it's just unfortunate how it goes. That's just how the game is. Other rises, number 8, Song Yadong. Still high on Song Yadong. I am every year. I'm confident he will have a good year, but biggest rise, Peyton Talbot. Biggest fall off, Marlon Vera and Umar Nurmagomedov. That's right. We're going with our first new champion of the year, Umar Nurmagomedov, and he's going to end the year on December 31st, 2025 as champion. Now, for women's bantamweight, it's got to be the easiest pick. It's got to be the most unanimous pick that everyone's going with her, which means it probably won't come true. But number 2 ranked, Kayla Harrison, ending the year's champion. Look, I don't think Julia Pena holds an inch to her in terms of ability. This is just, everyone's picking her. Everyone's picking Kayla Harrison. It's hard not to. She just, in every department, outclasses every other women's bantamweight. That's what we're going with. Biggest rise, kind of tough. I nailed Norma Dumont last year, but I'm going to go with the 13th ranked Aline Perez. She's nothing special, no offense, but I just think she'll be someone who'll move up in the rankings. And as for fall off, the number 1 ranked Hawkgirl Pennington, who just lost her championship, I think you're going to see her maybe retire, maybe drop down a few rungs. I think her time in the UFC is coming to an end. So women's bantamweight, we can leave that there. Featherweight, here's what makes it interesting. I don't know what's going on with Ilia Topuria. I don't know if he's going to vacate the belt. I don't know if he's going to defend it, but the safe bet is he's going to retain. The safe bet's he's going to retain. I mean, when I look at his competition, rematch with Volk, no. Rematch with Max, not going to happen. Diego Lopez, I think that'd be a fun fight. I think Diego's getting caught, and he's going to sleep. Mosafar, similar scenario. He could out-grapple Ia, but I think the submission threat and the knockout threat is what's really going to hurt him there. So I think whether Ia doesn't defend, whether he defends, Ia's ending the year as featherweight champion. Now for biggest rise, the Fighting Nerds. We called Kyle Barallo of the Fighting Nerds last year for having the biggest rise. He ended the year at number 5. We're calling Gene Silva. Gene Silva is unranked. He fluctuates between featherweight and lightweight, but I think he's going to stick at featherweight, and I think he's going to be an absolute killer. I mean, he most recently knocked out Charles Jourdain with a nasty uppercut. He's been finishing everyone they throw at him. I'm high on Gene Silva. I think by the end of the year, he's going to be on your radar. He's a good fighter, and he's in EA Sports UFC 5. Go play with him. You'll see how good his abilities are. For biggest fall off, this one hurts to say, and I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me. I think it's Volkanovski. I think Alexander Volkanovski is going to have an unfortunate fall off. I think he's going to be put in fights against Diego Lopez, lose that fight, and then I think he's going to be put in a fight against like Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett. He's going to lose that one. Then it'll be like an Aljamain Sterling fight. He'll lose that one, and maybe he'll get a win here or there. So, but I just think Volk's in that scenario where he's now been knocked out brutally in back-to-back fights. Not just like TKO, he's been knocked out. It's been pretty rough. I think that's going to have an impact on him, so I do predict Volkanovski to have a rough 2025. Moving on to men's lightweight, yet another easy one. I think Arman will prove the toughest test for Islam. I think that'll be a big tell, but I'm going with Islam to end the year as champion. Currently the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter. Great fight with Arman Tsarukyan right off the bat, but look, Charles Oliveira, I will pick Charles Oliveira any day of the week, any fight. It's almost impossible to see what changes he has made compared to Islam since they last fought. All right, Other than that, Gaethje, Poirier, Max, Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, that's your top 7. I don't see those guys touching Islam. I think Islam, if anything, would move up in weight and lose a double championship fight due to the 170ers being a bit bigger, but I don't know. I'm saying he ends the year as lightweight champion. If he gets past Arman, it may be just easy roads ahead. That's how I view it. Now, for biggest rise, there could be a couple of guys. Like I said, Gene Silva fights at multiple weight classes, so it could be him, but I'm pitting him at featherweight. In terms of ranked opponents, Joel Alvarez, ranked number 15, 22 wins, 22 finishes. This guy's an absolute killer. I'm pitting him against a lot of the top 15. There's also Paddy Pimblett at 13. A lot of people don't like it, but Paddy Pimblett is getting a Sean O'Malley treatment, and the Sean O'Malley treatment worked. It led Sean O'Malley to a championship and a title defense and main event in the Sphere. I think they're going to try and do it with Paddy. I could see Paddy being that guy, but I'm really going to go with Joel Alvarez here, right? He's from Spain. I think if they do go to Europe or Spain at some point this year, he's going to get a big opportunity. But those who I think are going to have big rises. In terms of who are actually ranked right now, unranked, there's no one I can think of. I'm sure when I see someone fight in the early part of the year, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have picked them. In terms of biggest fall off, I'm going Michael Chandler at 7. Chandler is in a rough spot. He's 2 I want to say 4. I want to say he's 2-4 in his UFC run, and all the fights have been great. 6 fights, 6 amazing fights, but, I mean, what's next? Paddy Pimblett, I think he submits him. You could give him, if Hanao Moicano beats Bernardo Dariush, you could do that fight. I think Hanao Moicano beats him there. You could have him go up to welterweight. You could do the Conor McGregor fight. I think Michael Chandler has a rough 2025, and it just pains people to see that he's having all these great fights, but he's not winning them. So Michael Chandler falling off in terms of his spot in the rankings. We'll have to see them. Next up, welterweight, and this is it. This is the year, guys. This is the year Shavkat Rakhmonov finally gets it through. It's only a matter of time before him and Bilal have a fight booked. Give me Shavkat Rakhmonov to win the championship. He almost did it last year. He almost did. The only reason he didn't do it is because Bilal pulled out. Now, the Ian Gary fight was tough, but mind you, I think that speaks to how good Ian Gary is, not to how bad Shavkat is. Plus, Shavkat was also injured in that fight. So I'm going Shavkat to end the year as champion. Now, who will have the biggest rise? I mean, I think we're all going with them. Number 13th ranked, Carlos Prates, your debut fighter, rookie of the year, if you want to call on, of 2024. Who's beating this guy? I mean, I'm going all the way up to Ian Gary at 7. I think that's when you could get a close fight. Sean Brady at 5 could pose a grappling threat. Then you got your Jack Del Malenaz, Usman, Rakhmonov, Edwards. I think Carlos Prates is in for a massive 2025. I think he's in for a killer year. In terms of biggest fall off, I'm sticking with these number 1 guys. Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards looked a shell of himself. And looking back at his past few performances, nothing too impressive. So I'm saying Leon takes kind of a dive. I mean, look at the opponents he has coming up: Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady, Joaquin Buckley, Ian Gary, Carlos Prates, Michael Morales. He is taking on killers. Okay, they're not going to give him a Kamaru Usman another fight. I was going to say tetralogy. That wouldn't even make sense. They're not going to give him a Gilbert Burns or Colby Covington. No, they're going to give him up-and-comers who are hungry to make a move, and I think that's where you see Leon, unfortunately, take some losses. Moving on to middleweight. This is where things get very interesting because I think you see multiple title changes this year. Dricus du Plessis is your current men's middleweight champion, and he takes on Sean Strickland. Now, we remember how close their first fight was. I could easily see Sean taking it. Now, in my personal opinion, I'm riding with Dricus du Plessis in that rematch. I just think that's the case that we're going to be getting. In terms of the winner of that, they got a date with Khamzat Chimaev. I'm not picking anyone against Khamzat. Okay, I've been riding with Khamzat since the get-go, and looking at what he did to Robert Whittaker, oh my gosh, he would murk Sean Strickland. He would destroy Sean Strickland in 30 seconds, okay? Now, Dricus du Plessis, I think, offers the best challenge to Khamzat. I'm still picking Khamzat to end the year as champion. I think it's exciting. I think it'll be good, and that's who we're riding with. In terms of biggest rise, now biggest rise is tough because middleweight has a lot of killers at the top. You got Kyle Barallo, Nasruddin Imavov. You could even say the name Khamzat Chimaev. But in terms of someone who just broke into the rankings, who's in for a big year, Number 14th ranked, what do you want to call it? The Bullet Sharamagomedov. That's right, the one-eyed fighter, undefeated out of Dagestan. We're riding with Shara Bullet Magomedov to have a fantastic 2025. I mean, number 13th ranked Anthony Hernandez, another name to keep on your record. And of course, Bo Nickel will definitely be in the rankings by the end of the year, I believe. But I think Shara is going to have a fantastic year. In terms of fall off, I think Adesanya at number 2. I'm going with Izzy, man. He's taking on Nurmagomedov. Loser of that probably has someone like Kyle Barallo. Loser of that as someone like Anthony Hernandez or Shara Magomedov. I think the tough fights are going to keep coming for Izzy, and he's unfortunately going to take some losses this year. It pains me to say it, but I think he's in that part of his career where the losses are just going to pile up. You know, he's 1-3 in his last 4, for goodness sakes, and it's not looking any brighter about the competition he's taking on. He's taking on some real hard hitters as the year progresses. 2 divisions left. First one, light heavyweight. This one of my most crazy predictions I'm making. As we head to light heavyweight, Alex Pereira, currently the reigning defending king, fighter of the year in 2024. There's a recurring theme right now, and it's been going on for, I want to say, the last 3 years. It's the last 3 years where 2021 fighter of the year is Kamaru Usman, loses the belt in 2022. 2022 fighter of the year is Volkanovski, loses the belt in 2023. Or I guess it was 2024, but he went 1-2 in 2023. 2023 fighter of the year, I honestly can't remember. Did we give it to Islam? Who won 2024 men's fighter of the year? Or 2023, I mean. I honestly can't remember. Was it Volk? Did they give Volk 2023 men's fighter of the year? Whoever it was. It might have been Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley was fighter of the year, and he lost. But anyways, there's a trend where fighters of the year drop their belts. And I think Alex Pereira, as much as he's tried to avoid it, is going to lose the Magomed Ankalaev. I just think Magomed has that style that no one else has that can combat Alex Pereira. Now, if he's going to straight up stand with him and he's going to get knocked out, Magomed, I'll happily eat my words. But if he actually uses his full array of techniques he has, he will have much success against Alex Pereira. In terms of biggest rise, there's an unranked guy, Ibo Aslan, 12-0, 13-0. Actually, I think it is 13-0. All knockouts. He has looked incredible through his first few UFC fights, and I think he's in for a big year. Truly, I think he is. I think he can hang with a lot of the guys at light heavyweight. I'm looking at Alonzo Menifield at number 15, Bogdan Gustaf at 13. I'd even go Johnny Walker at 10. There's a lot of fights to break him into the rankings, and by year's end, I could see him on the verge of the top 10, in the top 10. I'm picking him against Jamal Hill. Okay, fights like that. I'm really riding with this Ibo Aslan guy. Hail him from Turkey. Keep him on your radar. I think he's in for a massive 2025. In terms of the biggest fall-off, Jamal Hill. I mean, Jamal Hill has turned the entire UFC community against him, and I think when he fights, I mean, Alex Pereira exposed, you just got to clip him, and that's that. And we'll see how he does when he takes on Jiri Prochazka, but I think Jiri knocks him out. If Hill knocks out Jiri, oh my gosh, the world will never hear the end of it. But Jamal Hill having a fall-off in 2025, that's what I'm hoping for, that's what I'm predicting. He did it to himself. Nothing more to say. Now, as for the final division, ladies and gentlemen, men's heavyweight, the most interesting one of all. Let's go with our biggest rise. There's really no one. I'm going to go with Mick Parkin at number 15, the undefeated British fighter. He's really the only prospect on anyone's radar. I mean, we said Shamil Gaziev last year. That guy turned out to be a complete bub. But as for Mick Parkin, I think he has a lot of potential. Biggest fall off, I hate to say it, probably Curtis Blades, ranked number 5. Curtis, he's taking on guys with massive hitting power, and that's always going to be his weakness. And I just think he's going to get clipped here and there throughout the year. He just has to be careful. But I unfortunately am going to pick Curtis Blades. Now, as for who will end the year as champion, who will end the year as men's heavyweight champion? This is a Thanos versus the Avengers situation. This is inevitable. Tom Aspinall was inevitable. Okay, Tom Aspinall will be taking on John Jones in 2025. It is going to happen. And when it happens, you are going to see everything Tom's been doing come to fruition. I think he catches John early on, catches him with some quick punches, takes him down to the ground, TKO, and that's that. And John Jones is shockingly knocked out by Tom Aspinall in round number 1. I got to go with it. It's nothing against John Jones. He's exciting to watch. He's the greatest MMA fighter of all time. But I mean, come on. If Tom Aspinall were to do it, it would be utterly incredible. So we're going to pick Tom Aspinall to get it done just for the cinema. Just for the cinema. We love the action. We love the drama. That's what we're here for. So in a real recap of all of our champion predictions, we got Zhang Weili, Alexander Pantoja, Valentina Shevchenko, Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev all retaining. We have new champions in Umar Nurmagomedov, Kayla Harrison, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Hamza Chimaev, Magomedov Ankalaev, and Tom Aspinall. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a long year, going to be a fun year. I'm excited to see everything that transpires. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we got for today's episode. The year's off to a good start. I've been sick since, I think, December 31st. So there's that. But I will not let it stop me. I will not let this little mucusy situation get to me. I'm excited to see everything that happens. So those are our predictions for NFL, UFC, and, of course, our thoughts on Squid Games. Guys, make sure to listen to all of the past episodes. They're all great. All episodes of the Surprise Jet Podcast are great. Follow me on all the social platforms. Reach out. Let people know if they want to be a guest. They'll shout out to me. You can always come on the podcast. I'm always happy to have you. And as always, I'll catch you next time on the Surprise Jab Podcast.